Imagine, if you will, the slow, creeping dread of an ancient evil, not merely lurking in the shadows of forgotten tomes or the abyssal depths of cosmic space, but woven into the very fabric of your bloodline. A curse inherited, a primordial guilt festering through generations, waiting patiently to claim its rightful heir. Picture the gnawing sound, faint at first, then growing to a maddening crescendo, of countless tiny claws scratching, scuttling, slithering within the very walls of your ancestral home. A symphony of unspeakable horror, orchestrating your descent into an abyss of sanity from which there is no return. This, my friends, is the chilling, stomach-churning essence of H.P. Lovecraft's The Rats in the Walls, a tale that peels back the thin veneer of civilization to expose the raw, reeking savagery that lies dormant yet eternally present in the darkest corners of human history, and terrifyingly within the very lineage of man. Published in 1923, The Rats in the Walls stands as a monumental achievement in Lovecraft's oeuvre. A masterclass in psychological horror fused with the distinct unsettling flavour of cosmic dread, albeit one more intimately tied to the Earth's ancient evils than to the farthest reaches of the stars. It's a story that bypasses the need for elaborate cosmic entities to deliver its profound horror, instead finding its most potent terror in the depths of human depravity and the inescapable burden of ancestral sin, a relentless hereditary curse that traps its protagonist in a nightmare of his own blood. Our journey into this labyrinth of ancestral horror begins with Delapore, the narrator, a wealthy American who, after residing in the United States for decades, feels an inexplicable, almost compulsive pull to return to his ancestral home, Exham Priory, located deep within the desolate, mist-shrouded English countryside. For 3 centuries, the priory had stood as a grim, abandoned testament to a horrifying past, shunned and reviled by the local villagers, a place whispered about with fear and loathing, its very name a synonym for unspeakable evil. Delapore's family, the Delapores, had been forced to abandon the estate in the 17th century, driven out not by financial ruin or political strife, but by a pervasive, unnamed dread and the chilling, ever-present sound of countless rats within the walls, a sound that had driven previous generations to madness and death. It was a curse, an enduring stigma that followed the family across the Atlantic, leaving an indelible stain on their reputation and haunting their lineage. However, Delapore, a man of reason and modern sensibility, dismisses these ancient fears as mere superstition, the fanciful imaginings of an uneducated populace. He sees only a grand architectural relic, a piece of his heritage waiting to be reclaimed and restored to its former glory. This initial skepticism is a classic Lovecraftian trope, setting the stage for the inevitable shattering of rational belief in the face of truly unimaginable horrors. With an iron will and considerable financial resources, Delapore embarks on the ambitious task of rehabilitating Exham Priory. He brings in a team of architects, scholars and workmen determined to erase the centuries of neglect and the shadow of fear that clings to the ancient stones. From the outset, the local villagers, a superstitious insular folk, view his undertaking with a mixture of fear, distrust and thinly veiled contempt. They warn him, their eyes wide with ancestral terror, of the priory's unholy legacy, of the spectral rats that still scuttle in its decaying heart, and of the monstrous events that drove his ancestors to flee in terror. They speak of the family as having devil worship in their blood, and hint at crimes so monstrous, so unholy, that even the land itself recoiled from them. These ominous warnings, however, only serve to steel Delapore's resolve, fueling his conviction that he is bringing enlightenment and progress to a forgotten corner of the world, brushing aside ancient folklore as nothing more than peasant superstition. He is joined in his endeavour by his trusted friend, Captain Norris, an adventurous and somewhat sardonic individual who initially shares Delapore's rationalist viewpoint, providing a crucial grounding presence as the psychological horror begins its slow, insidious creep. As the restoration progresses, an unsettling atmosphere begins to permeate the priory. The workmen, despite their initial professional detachment, become increasingly agitated and superstitious. They report strange drafts, inexplicable noises, and an overwhelming sense of unease. Delapore himself, initially impervious, begins to feel the subtle tendrils of dread reaching out to him. He dismisses these feelings as the natural anxieties of a man undertaking such a monumental task in a place with a dark history. Yet the unease persists, growing more insistent with each passing day. The focus of the supernatural activity, or what appears to be such, soon coalesces around a specific area of the priory. The ancient cellars and forgotten crypts that lie deep beneath the venerable structure. Here the air is thick with a palpable sense of ancient decay, and a faint, almost imperceptible scratching sound begins to emanate from the walls, a sound that only Delapore seems to discern at first, dismissing it as settling timbers or the harmless scuttling of common mice. The true turning point arrives when, during the course of their archaeological excavations, the team uncovers a series of forgotten subterranean passages and crypts beneath the priory's foundations, far deeper and more extensive than anyone could have imagined. These findings are not merely historical curiosities, they are revelations of a terrifying past. The discoveries lead them to a massive cyclopean chamber, a structure of immense antiquity and disturbing proportions, clearly predating the priory itself. Within this horrifying space, they unearth a shocking array of artifacts. Altars stained with unspeakable residues, crude idols depicting grotesque, bestial figures, and, most chillingly, an astonishing number of human bones, all bearing marks of ritualistic slaughter and dismemberment. The sheer quantity of these remains is staggering, suggesting not isolated incidents, but a long, systematic practice. Lovecraft excels here in describing the accumulating evidence of a profound and ancient evil, building a horrifying picture piece by agonizing piece. As the excavations delve deeper, the full, sickening truth of the Delapore family's past begins to unfold. The archaeologists discover an elaborate multi-tiered complex of catacombs and grottos beneath the priory, leading to an almost unfathomable depth. It becomes chillingly clear that the priory was built atop, and indeed around, an ancient subterranean cultic site, a place of profound and enduring evil. The deeper they go, the more primitive and grotesque the discoveries become. There are remnants of a truly monstrous lineage, a line of priests and nobles, the direct ancestors of Delapore, who, for generations, had practiced a horrific form of ritualistic cannibalism, maintaining a secret society of depravity hidden beneath their noble exterior. They weren't just practicing human sacrifice. They were systematically breeding and slaughtering human cattle, keeping them in subterranean pens, fattening them for their unholy feasts. The bones unearthed are not merely those of victims, but also of the deformed, degenerate descendants of these human cattle, further evidence of the unspeakable practices. The discovery of this gruesome truth is accompanied by a dramatic escalation of the rat phenomenon. What started as a faint scratching sound now transforms into a cacophony of gnawing, scratching, and squeaking. The sound fills the priory, emanating from every wall, floor, and ceiling, a relentless, overwhelming torrent of noise that besieges Delapore's sanity. The rats themselves become more brazen, appearing in droves, their beady eyes glinting in the dim light, their movements mirroring the frantic, panicked state of Delapore's increasingly unraveling mind. They are not merely common rodents. They are described in a way that suggests something more, something ancient and terrible, almost as if they are the spectral guardians or the very embodiment of the ancestral curse, drawn forth by the reawakened horrors beneath. Their presence becomes an undeniable, visceral manifestation of the priory's infernal legacy. Driven by a morbid fascination and a desperate need to fully comprehend the depths of his family's monstrous history, Delapore descends further into the unearthed abyssal grottos, accompanied by Captain Norris and a small team of intrepid archaeologists. The descent is a chilling journey into primordial darkness, a descent into the very bowels of the earth and the darkest recesses of human depravity. As they navigate the labyrinthine tunnels, the air grows heavy with a sickening charnel stench, a miasma of ancient decay and unspeakable acts. The rat sounds reach an unbearable crescendo, the very walls seeming to writhe with their unseen presence. And then they stumble upon the ultimate horror. A vast cyclopean cavern, its walls carved with grotesque forgotten symbols, within which lies the true heart of the unspeakable evil. Here they discover the remains of the final, most degenerate generations of the Delapore clan, a line of incredibly ancient and hideous beings no longer fully human, who had continued the cannibalistic rituals in utter darkness, nurturing the horrific practice for millennia. The sight that confronts Delapore and his companions is beyond all comprehension, a scene of such profound abomination that it instantly shatters the fragile framework of their sanity. They find not merely bones, but actual remains, desiccated, horribly deformed, barely recognizable as human, of the victims and of the perpetrators themselves, twisted by centuries of inbreeding and depraved existence. There are cages, instruments of torture, altars still slick with ancient congealed blood, and the horrifying evidence of an unspeakable diet. What is more, they discover that the latest victims were not simply human cattle, but in the final gruesome acts, the Delapore family had turned upon themselves, engaging in incestuous cannibalism, devouring their own kind in the abyssal darkness, their bodies degenerating into a bestial, shambling parody of humanity. The full scope of the multi-generational systematic depravity is laid bare, revealing a lineage steeped in a horrifying blend of ritual, bestiality, and utter moral collapse. It is here, in this ultimate revelation of his family's monstrous legacy, that Delapore's mind finally snaps. The accumulated dread, the pervasive rat sounds, the sight of the unholy grotto, and the undeniable truth of his own ancestral connection to this profound evil combine to utterly obliterate his sanity. He becomes one with the horror, regressing to the primal, bestial state of his ancestors. In a moment of absolute, terrifying clarity, or perhaps absolute delusion, He perceives the rats not as external creatures, but as the ghostly echoes of the ancient ravenous Delapore cultists, their gnawing hunger a reflection of the bloodlust that now courses through his own veins. He sees Captain Norris not as his friend, but as a plump, appetizing sacrifice, a piece of human cattle ready for the slaughter. In a fit of uncontrollable primal rage and hunger, Delapore lunges at Norris, attacking him with savage ferocity, beginning to devour his friend's flesh, echoing the very cannibalistic acts that had been performed by his ancestors in that very same charnel grotto. The reversion is complete. The curse has claimed its heir. The horrified surviving members of the expedition managed to overpower Delapore, saving Norris from a truly gruesome end, though Norris himself is left irrevocably scarred and traumatized. Delapore is subdued and subsequently committed to a mental asylum, raving about the rats and the human cattle, forever trapped in the nightmare of his inherited madness. He believes he is one of the ancient Delapores, the gnawing hunger a constant presence, the rats his constant companions, guiding him, mocking him, reminding him of the terrible feast. The priory is once again abandoned, its secrets now fully exposed, its curse fulfilled. The rats in the walls ends with the chilling realization that Delapore's madness is not an external affliction, but an internal awakening of an ancient inherited evil, a regression to the primal savagery that lay dormant in his blood. The story leaves us with a profound sense of cosmic irony and utter despair. Delapore, in seeking to reclaim his heritage, unwittingly unearths the very truth that obliterates his identity and transforms him into the very thing he sought to escape. Now, let us delve deeper into the layers of profound horror and thematic resonance that make The Rats in the Walls such a uniquely disturbing and enduring work of Lovecraftian fiction. At its very core lies the pervasive and suffocating theme of ancestral guilt and inescapable heredity. Lovecraft explores the chilling idea that evil is not merely an action, but a genetic stain, a blight passed down through generations, an inescapable burden that dictates one's ultimate fate. Delapore, despite his modern sensibilities and noble intentions, is a pawn of his lineage, a vessel for an ancient curse waiting to be reawakened. His attempt to escape or rationalize his family's past is ultimately futile. The blood speaks louder than reason. This theme resonates strongly with other Lovecraft tales, such as The Shadow over Innsmouth, where a character discovers his own horrific, non-human lineage. But Rats elevates it by focusing on human or subhuman depravity rather than alien hybridization. The horror is that the evil isn't coming from outside, it's coming from within, from a primordial genetic memory. Delapore doesn't simply succumb to madness. He becomes his ancestors, his rational mind collapsing to reveal the primal ravenous beast that has always been lurking in his family's genetic code. It's a terrifying testament to Lovecraft's anxieties about degeneration, the belief that civilization is a fragile construct perpetually threatened by the resurfacing of atavistic, primordial savagery. Central to this story's horror, and perhaps its most visceral and unforgettable element, is the theme of cannibalism. Lovecraft presents cannibalism not merely as a desperate act of survival, but as a deeply entrenched ritualistic practice, a profound inversion of humanity. It symbolizes the ultimate taboo, the complete breakdown of human morality, and a regression to a bestial, pre-human state. The discovery of the human cattle and the systematic breeding program beneath Exham Priory is a revelation of abject methodical depravity, demonstrating a monstrous efficiency in the service of unspeakable hunger. This is not the noble savagery of tribal warfare, but a calculated, generational perversion of life itself. The climax, with Delapore attacking Norris, is so potent because it forces the reader to confront the possibility that such primal, forbidden urges might lie dormant in all of us, merely awaiting the right catalyst to erupt. It is the ultimate expression of the thin veneer of civilization theme, brutally torn away to reveal the raw, gnawing hunger beneath. The horror is magnified by the implication that the Delapores had devolved so completely that their very existence was predicated on this grotesque practice, maintaining a secret subterranean society based entirely on consuming human flesh, a horrifying echo of a distant primal past that humanity supposedly left behind. Connected to this is the potent theme of regression and primitivism. The deeper Delapore and his team descend into the Priory, the further back in time they travel, not just historically, but evolutionarily. The catacombs reveal not just ancient ruins, but a descent into an almost pre-human state of existence. The later generations of the Delapores, living in the abyssal darkness, represent a horrifying regression from civilization, becoming shambling bestial creatures deformed by their diet and their environment, devoid of all humanizing qualities. They are the ultimate embodiment of Lovecraft's fear of biological and cultural decay. This regression isn't just about physical appearance, it's about the erosion of mind and morality, a descent into pure, unadulterated instinct. Delapore's final transformation is a personal embodiment of this broader theme, demonstrating that the human mind, when confronted with truly abyssal truths, can shed its acquired rationality and revert to a primal, predatory state. The story suggests that beneath our cultivated selves, there lurks an ancient, animalistic consciousness easily reawakened. While The Rats in the Walls is heavily steeped in psychological and earthly horror, it still retains elements of Lovecraft's broader cosmic dread, albeit transmuted. The unknown here isn't an alien entity from beyond the stars, but an ancient, forbidden knowledge of humanity's own capacity for evil, and the terrifying truth about the persistence of primal forces. The existence of a millennia-old subterranean cult of cannibalism, continuing its abominations in the darkness beneath England, speaks to a deeply unsettling reality. That truly ancient evils, things best left undisturbed, can exist alongside human civilization for eons, unseen, unheard, yet profoundly influencing the fabric of reality. The rats themselves become almost cosmic in their implications. They are not just animals, but messengers, instruments, or perhaps even manifestations of this ancient chthonic horror. Their omnipresence and their inexplicable intelligence suggest something beyond the mundane, a connection to the very ancient earth and its unhallowed secrets. They are the heralds of Delapore's doom, the physical embodiment of the curse. Madness, as in so many of Lovecraft's tales, serves as both the consequence and the narrative lens through which the horror is perceived. Delapore's descent into madness is gradual but inevitable. It begins with subtle unease, progresses through increasing anxiety, and culminates in a complete psychological breakdown, where he identifies with his monstrous ancestors. The unreliable narrator trope is masterfully employed here. As we witness Delapore's sanity unravel, his perceptions becoming increasingly warped and terrifying. His final ravings about human cattle and the gnawing rats are not merely symptoms of his affliction, but represent his full assimilation into the horrors he unearthed. His madness is not a weakness, but a profound, albeit tragic understanding of the ultimate truth, that the evil of Exham Priory is now a part of him, an inescapable heritage. The story forces us to question what constitutes sanity when confronted with truths that defy all rational understanding and moral boundaries. Lovecraft's masterful use of atmosphere is paramount in The Rats in the Walls. The setting of Exham Priory itself is a character steeped in a pervasive sense of dread, decay, and ancient horror. Lovecraft's descriptive language creates a tangible sense of place, from the desolate English countryside to the suffocating, charnel stench of these subterranean grottos. He meticulously builds the ambience, layer by agonizing layer, using words like eldritch, cyclopean, squalid, loathsome, abyssal, and blasphemous, to evoke a pervasive sense of the grotesque and the terrifying. The slow burn of the narrative, the gradual unveiling of the horror, from vague whispers to undeniable physical evidence, is expertly executed, ensuring that the reader is drawn deeper into the abyss alongside Delapore. The tension is palpable, steadily escalating with each discovery and each scratch of a tiny claw. The symbolism within the story is rich and potent. The rats, without question, are the most prominent symbol. They are far more than mere rodents. They are the physical manifestation of the ancestral curse, the ceaseless gnawing of guilt and forgotten evil. They are the guides leading Delapore to his doom, the spectral echoes of the ancient cultists, and the relentless, omnipresent sound that chips away at his sanity. Their sheer numbers and their increasingly aggressive behavior transform them from pests into an apocalyptic swarm, an unstoppable force of ancient vengeance. Exham Priory itself symbolizes the mausoleum of generational sin, a physical manifestation of a family's dark legacy. Its decay mirrors the moral and physical degeneration of the Delapore lineage, and its restoration ironically serves to reawaken the very horror it sought to bury. The descent into the darkness of the subterranean grotto is both a literal and metaphorical journey into the abyss of human depravity, the subconscious mind, and the primordial past. It represents the unearthing of forbidden knowledge, the kind of truth that humanity is not meant to bear, and a symbolic return to a time before civilization, before morality, to a pure, unadulterated state of savagery. The Rats in the Walls stands out even within Lovecraft's diverse body of work for its intense focus on human, or rather subhuman evil, rather than relying solely on cosmic entities to provide its horror. While the cosmic backdrop of ancient unspeakable things is always present in Lovecraft, here the terror is far more intimately tied to humanity's own capacity for monstrousness and the inescapable influence of heredity. It's a deeply personal horror for Delapore, making his descent into madness all the more poignant and terrifying. It connects to the themes of other Lovecraftian tales that deal with inherited blight, like the Dunwich Horror with its deformed offspring, or the Lurking Fear with its degenerate subterranean family. But Rats pushes the boundaries of human depravity to an almost unbearable degree, making the cannibalism a central, unignorable horror. In conclusion, The Rats in the Walls is a masterwork of psychological horror, ancestral dread, and the terrifying concept of inescapable inherited guilt. It takes us on a horrifying journey from rational skepticism to an utter annihilation of sanity, all orchestrated by the persistent, maddening sound of countless unseen claws. Lovecraft crafts a narrative that is both deeply personal and universally unsettling, forcing us to confront the darkest aspects of human nature and the unsettling possibility that our past is not merely history, but an active, inescapable force that dictates our present and future. It's a story that lingers long after you've read it, its disturbing images and sounds echoing in the quiet corners of your mind, prompting you to wonder what ancient, unhallowed truths might lie buried beneath your own feet, waiting to be unearthed, waiting to claim their rightful due. The thought alone is enough to send a chill down your spine, isn't it? If this deep dive into one of Lovecraft's most unsettling tales has piqued your interest and sent a shiver of cosmic dread through you, then do me a favor. Please take a moment to like this video. Your support helps us continue to explore these dark and fascinating corners of literary horror. And if you crave more explorations into the weird, the arcane, and the unspeakable horrors penned by the Master of Providence, H.P. Lovecraft, then be sure to subscribe for more Lovecraft videos and join our community of fellow seekers of forbidden knowledge. We have many more chilling tales to dissect, many more eldritch truths to uncover. Until next time, keep your ears open for the rats in the walls, for they are never truly gone.